Hello, you amazing, beautiful people, and welcome back to another tornado reaction video. I can't believe this has become a little mini-series that we're doing at the moment, but you guys seem to be loving them, so I'm quite happy doing more. It's been super freaking, like, I want to say, like, educational, but it feels weird saying that when they've been as dark and as twisted as they have been, but it has been pretty incredible to check out. And a lot of you have been asking me to check out this tornado called the Jarrell tornado. And there's this video that came out not too long ago, actually, just a few months ago, called the world's most unsurvivable tornado. And I've heard it looks terrifying, it was incredibly dangerous. I've literally heard nothing but horror stories about this, and it was the #1 most upvoted comment on my last reaction video. If you don't know how I'm picking which videos I check out, simple. I go to the comment section, filter by subscribers only, so please make sure you subscribe before you leave your recommendation, and I see whichever comment gets the most likes, and this video easily got the most likes. It was like the top 3 comments on my video, and everyone was saying, you need to check out this tornado. So I don't know when this happened. I'm sure we're gonna find out in the video, but I'm a little bit worried again because of the title. The most unsurvivable tornado? Sounds like it's gonna be a freaking horror movie we're about to jump into here. There's also been a bunch of videos that have been recommended as well. A few of you have told me to check out a channel called Swiggle Studios. They uploaded a video called The Night Texas Hit 140 Degrees during a thunderstorm called like Satan's Storm. There's a story about like a mall called Death Mall by a channel called Brew. There's loads and loads and loads of videos that have been recommended. Some more Weatherbox Studio stuff, tons. So please keep the recommendations coming. They don't need to be tornado based, just anything extreme weather, anything American based, anything like that. I'm quite happy checking out. If you guys are enjoying these reactions, please like and subscribe. Shout out the channel Weatherbox Studios, and let's jump into my first time ever reaction to Jarrell, the world's most unsurvivable tornado.
Imagine the loudest sound you've ever heard. Now imagine hearing that sound for 5 minutes. The tornado that struck Jarrell in 1997 was, in every sense of the word, dehumanizing. Not only did it take 27 lives, but it systematically erased every trace of them in ways the modern world had never seen. Every aspect of this storm was atypical. It shapeshifted from a thin rope into a massive black cloud of spinning debris. It moved backwards. It nearly stood still, like a blender spinning at 300 miles per hour.
Jeez,
it tore the skin off of livestock, peeled asphalt from roads, and went on a killing spree.
Is that real? I have never ever heard of that in my life. Like, aren't hurricane winds supposed to reach even higher? It did that to animals. This thing sounds fucking...
Off of livestock,
I
peeled
don't even know.
asphalt from roads, and went on a killing spree while hundreds of onlookers watched in horror.
All of this in an atmosphere that didn't look dangerous enough to produce such a monster.
Whenever we've checked out tornadoes recently, we've never really seen a, like, I'd just say killer. Like, I think that's the best word to use, where we haven't really seen tornadoes that, like, take that many lives. And I'm presuming that's just because maybe the technology is really good these days, because going back to the 90s, first one we've checked out from then, and it took this many lives.
So how did the most unsurvivable tornado ever recorded form beneath such an ordinary sky? What would it have taken to survive? And will we see anything remotely close to this in the future?
My gosh, man.
On May 26th, forecasters were watching Central Texas closely, but not for violent tornadoes, for general severe thunderstorms with large hail, the kind that the southern plains sees every spring. A cold front was draped across central Oklahoma, which would drift southeastward throughout the afternoon, pushing up warm, moist air, creating thunderstorms. These thunderstorms would likely cluster together, creating a mesoscale convective system, or...
These are my favorite parts of these videos. It is the scientific explanation behind the forming of these megastorms, like over the plains of America that just cause these monstrous tornadoes. Also, I can see Oklahoma, but then I can see Arkansas and Arkansas down here. Is the state, like, because it says it there above the Oklahoma thing, is that part of the state? Is that part of Oklahoma?
NCS,
is Oklahoma quite
causing
small?
Minor flooding as it drifted southeast in the early morning hours of the 27th. With this in mind, the Storm Prediction Center issued a slight risk for the Ozarks to Tallahassee, directly ahead of the storms.
I didn't realize the Ozarks
and
were
sure
that far
enough,
down.
late in the day on the 26th, storms erupted in central Oklahoma, racing southeast, forming an MCS. These storms brought heavy downpours and large hail, expelling cool, dry air, which spilled into northeast Texas by the following morning. This outflow boundary can act as a mini cold front or dry line, which can help initiate thunderstorms later in the day if conditions are right. As data came in from atmospheric soundings on the 27th, things changed quite a bit. In central Texas, a cold front was observed drifting through the region, one that would push immense amounts of surface moisture upwards and create thunderstorms. Just above.
So these storms, similarly to what we sort of see with hurricanes and the formation of them above water, it's the same on land. These flat plains and big open spaces of land, and there's literally a layer of that ocean called like the death zone, where the waves are largest because the wind doesn't have anything to break it up, so it's just going around the entire globe, which causes harsh like waves, which is usually why you only get either massive icebreaker vessels in that region or military vessels. You don't really get any other vessels. There's no commercial vessels going down there, despite all the fake AI videos that seem to show that going around at the moment, which for some reason there's been loads of them recently. But yeah, that's not a thing because the waves are like massive. There's actually a really cool like analysis of like the different sort of zones. Like you can see it online where it sort of like shows you. Anyway, going off tangent, it's the same with land then? Is that what we're seeing? The cold air, warm air, and the flat plain.
The sweltering surface air was a thick, hot, and dry air mass that once sat over the high plateau of northern Mexico. If this moisture at the surface was pushed upwards into this dry air, it would rise to 50,000 feet in a matter of minutes, creating massive thunderstorms with large hail. With this in mind,
it's crazy
the Storm Prediction Center upgraded central Texas to a moderate risk for severe thunderstorms. The question was, would there be tornadoes? The atmosphere was teeming with energy. There was very little spin.
Crazy how
the jet
quick
stream,
it is, man.
the very thing that causes rotating winds with height, was 300 miles north of central Texas. Looking at a profile of wind speed and direction with height, the winds were rather light and chaotic. Storm relative helicity values were measuring at about 30, which dictates an atmosphere with very little shear or spin.
Okay.
If a tornado were to
anything
occur,
below
let alone
100
a
is
violent
low
tornado,
threat.
it would be a freak occurrence where everything would have to line up perfectly. Nobody could have predicted the series of events that would unfold in the next 3 hours.
It's actually insane when you think that in this video, he's literally just said, if a tornado were to occur, it would be a freak occurrence. Now, we already know that one is going to occur, so now whatever we see is a freak occurrence.
The storms that moved through Arkansas in the overnight hours had created little ripples in the atmosphere that could be seen on satellite imagery. It's called a gravity wave, and at the top of the wave, or crest, air is forced upwards, resulting in thicker clouds than at the bottom of the wave, or valley. When a gravity wave moves through an unstable atmosphere, it can help initiate thunderstorms. When that atmosphere has significant moisture on the ground and 6,000 joules per kilogram of CAPE above, it's only a matter of time. A small shower appears on radar just west of Waco, Texas, drifting eastward, and then 2 more baby thunderstorms near Carthage and Henderson, also drifting to the east. Looking at the satellite imagery, it's clear the gravity wave passing over Waco is what helped initiate the lone thunderstorm. But notice...
So this blue line represents the gravity wave. These storms weren't being initiated until this gravity wave sort of passed over them, and that caused them to like rapidly like happen, which is what we sort of saw mentioned previously as well, right? And I'm guessing back then there was just no way of really knowing if these variables would line up and not thinking that they would.
Something else. A clear other boundary existed on satellite within the field of puffy cumulus clouds. In fact, there were 2 of them. This was the cold front drifting through central Texas, as well as a smaller, weaker dry line. Both of these boundaries have the ability to create thunderstorms, and our Waco storm was located very near both of them.
It's really cool because I don't know how thunderstorms are fully created. I know about the sort of like temperature fluctuations, hot and cold, the combinations and that, but that's it. You know, everyone knows that sort of like basic thing. Like when you see a thunderstorm, you're like, that's cold and hot air having a dance, right? But this is like the advanced explanation of it all, and I love this.
Storms begin to strengthen. Another strange behavior was observed. While the cluster near Henderson drifted eastward, the Waco storm began moving southwestward. Well, storms form when surface air rises, and surface air rises when it gets pushed upwards by boundaries. This process gets accelerated when different boundaries collide and merge. And at this very moment, the cold front and dry line were performing what is called a zipper merge. Much like when two lanes of traffic narrow into just one, the cold front was overtaking the dry line, creating an increased area of lift that was propagating the storm's new updrafts southwestward. A tornado watch was issued at 12:54 p.m., with a tornado warning 30 minutes later. But the question remained, where was this spinning motion coming from? The winds were fairly light and chaotic aloft.
It's like 10 minutes and then 30 minutes done.
A consistent change in wind speed and direction with height, yet there was nothing resembling a tornado-producing atmosphere. The answer lies at the surface, where a complex situation was developing. As the storm propagated southwestward, the downdraft, the cold air rushing out of the storm, merged with the cold front dry line merger, creating this distorted, enhanced gust front. East of this gust front, the southerly inflow into the storm was accelerated, causing a spinning motion at the surface. Due to the explosive...
So because of this like rapid fusion with that like dry line and cold line, and then that all like causing it to rise, there was then like the expelling of like that dust front which was coming out, and as that was coming out, the storm was still intaking like its energy pretty much, and that caused it. Is that normal?
Environment aloft with 6,000 joules per kilogram of CAPE, and such a large portion of this energy existing near the ground, any spinning air at the surface could get stretched upwards into the storm itself and could be enough to produce a tornado. The tornadoes would likely be short-lived due to the complex boundaries that would produce them. Tornadoes require a balance of atmospheric forces, and when you have multiple boundaries interacting in such a complicated way, there's typically small windows where that balance can be achieved. It's similar to trying to start an old lawnmower with a bad carburetor. You can get it to run for a little bit, but it keeps shutting off. At 1:21 p.m., the first tornado touched down, a tall, thin rope near Spring Valley, Texas, that was only on the ground for 3 minutes. But shortly after, another tall tornado touched down east of Moody, Texas, and this time it was apparent that something was very off. This tornado was moving southwestward, the exact opposite direction a tornado typically moves. Consider this: a supercell thunderstorm is oriented in such a way where the northeast side of the storm contains the downdraft, rain, hail, lightning, and high winds. The southwest side of the storm contains the rain-free base, wall cloud, and often the tornado. When the storm moves in a northeast fashion, the thunderstorm acts as a warning. You might not know a tornado is coming, but at the very least, you are sheltered inside away from the heavy rain and hail. When a supercell...
that's kind of interesting. Almost like a nature's warning then. Because the way you want to look at a storm is the tornadoes are being dragged behind it. So if you're in a town... And which is probably why a lot of you who live in these towns keep telling me like it's not as bad or as dangerous, because you guys probably get like ample warning most of the time, right? These storms hit you and you know that it's like you're gonna be going inside. You're not gonna be standing outside in the rain and the thunder. You're gonna be in a building. You're gonna be finding safety and shelter from the storm initially. So there's gonna be less people caught outside when the tornadoes come and knock.
Moves in the opposite direction. There's literally nothing between you and the tornado. No rain, no hail, and oftentimes not even lightning. If you're not paying attention, it could be fatal. But Debbie and Sandy Silvis knew it was coming, and from Willow Grove Road, Sandy took his camcorder out and began filming as the tall twister approached.
It's gonna hit us.
1 mile to their northeast, Bill and Carolyn Slentz knew it was coming as well. Their home was perched on a hill, and they had a clear view to the north, watching the growing tornado approach. Their son, Billy, insisted the family hop in their Honda Accord and drive away from the twister's path. With moments to spare, the family took Billy's advice. It was this decision that likely saved their lives. Sandy.
I love that. I love that. I love those little stories, man. Like the son being like, let's get the fuck out of here. Because you would. Like children are like more prone to that kind of like eternal fear than adults who have like seen these things multiple times. Like, it's not that bad, dangerous. That's going to be terrifying to like a younger person. Like, we should leave. We should go. This is coming our way. My word, I cannot imagine, like, I can't imagine even having a conversation like that. Should we stay? What do you mean, should we stay? Let's go!
Had the camera rolling as the Slentz family home was destroyed.
Look.
Is that dust?
That's a house. It just leveled that house.
All 5 of the Slentz family vehicles were either tossed atop their home or in the surrounding fields. The tornado lifted less than a mile later. This tornado received an F3 rating, but most importantly, showed that violent tornadoes were certainly on the board, even with the lackluster atmosphere.
Why did that one move the way it did?
The storm continued propagating southwestward along the merging boundaries, when at 2:26 p.m., another thin cone tornado touched down atop Belton Lake.
What do tornadoes even look like when they go across water? And like, there's like a fire tornado, isn't it? I keep seeing that like it recommended. What the heck? What the fuck are the different kinds of tornadoes?
Teague took this video from Morgan's Point showing
I guess that's what tornado
over the water
looks like over
before
water.
It moved onto land.
It looks like
destroyed the marina and several other structures south of the lake, lifting after only a couple miles.
It must be so peculiar after like a tornado's gone through and you just see like a boat or a car completely undamaged just sitting there, like houses and buildings, docks destroyed, but for some reason it's just like that one's fine. Like there was a boat in the previous picture, looked totally fine, just on the lake.
By this time, the storm was clearly visible from Interstate 35, and storm chasers, amateur photographers, and news journalists were careening up from Austin to try to catch a glimpse of a tornado. One of these videographers was Scott Guest, who, after being briefed in the KVUE newsroom, headed north with the crew in search of a tornado. And sure enough, another thin funnel touches down from the clouds, dancing around the field somewhere north of Perryville.
That looks well
This was
like
a land spout, a spinning vortex that occurs when weak localized rotation from surface boundaries stretches upwards, but does not fully stretch into the updraft of the thunderstorm. Scott pulls over, gets out his camera, and films the small tornado toss hay bales, slowly twisting and turning southward.
Could that pick up a person then if it's flipping a hay bale?
It appears to drift towards the highway, forcing the team to tear down and head north, out of the twister's path. They drive half a mile north to the Bell County rest area, well out of the tornado's path. Scott continues to film the twisting rope as it snaps trees in a field. Wayne Persky was 6 miles to the northeast, working on his family farm, when he spotted the tornado. He drove out to a field in his pickup truck and began filming the twister as it glided southwest. Scott Beckwith was working at Jarrell Farm Supply when, upon getting word of an approaching tornado, ran out.
It doesn't seem dangerous, this one, right? It doesn't seem like it's picking up anything too much. It looks like it's about to vanish any second now. It's just kind of like jumping around. It's barely even visible.
Side with his film camera in hand. He begins taking photographs of the twisting funnel.
And it's like breaking.
Something incredible happened that would go down in meteorological history. Over the course of 3 minutes, the singular funnel slowly turned into a massive multi-vortex tornado, which at one point resembles a giant walking amongst the earth with 2 legs and a distorted arm. In some Native American languages, a multi-vortex tornado is referred to as the dead man walking, a reminder that these types of tornadoes are often the strongest seen on planet Earth and should be treated with the utmost respect. But
they are? That shot is unbelievable, by the way. That is like, that picture is fucking crazy. The person who captured that picture, I've never seen anything like that. It looked like a person. It 100% did. Even the shape of the freaking like spouts were like legs. It looked like it had boots. that looked like a fucking human walking across that field. That is insane. Look at that shit, man. It has feet. That's not that. It's even got like a torso. That's a tornado. That looks like someone carrying some shit back from the shops. That is fucking crazy.
Some Native American languages, a multi-vortex tornado is referred to as the dead man walking. A reminder that these types of tornadoes are often the strongest seen on planet Earth and should be treated with the utmost respect. But how did this transformation happen? Well, the tornado went from being...
It's crazy that was it. That was it. 2 seconds ago, I was literally saying this looks like nothing. I didn't think this was going to be the one.
Mostly a land spout, with rotation existing mainly near the ground.
It doesn't look like
violent
anything.
Tornado with multiple vortices and that parent rotation extending all the way into the storm's updraft. Right before the Jarrell tornado, the storm's updraft was located very close to the distorted gust front. And when this happens, the speed at which air rises into a thunderstorm tends to increase. Additionally, a small cell had merged with the parent storm right before the transformation took place. These cell mergers can cause increases in both winds rushing into and out of a thunderstorm. And this can generate or intensify a tornado. The only way we'd get a clear answer is from a mobile Doppler radar unit scanning the tornado in close range. Unfortunately, there were no mobile radar units in operation that day, leaving us to only speculate how a landspout became the worst tornado in history. Regardless, there's no debate about what happened next. As the tornado drifted southward, the winds around the vortex increased to over 250 miles per hour. This dramatic increase in intensity happened directly above Chuck Tunn's farmstead on County Road 304, killing multiple sheep and cattle, and tearing the roof clean off of his underground storm cellar. Thankfully, Chuck wasn't home at the time.
That's literally a place built to get away from these things couldn't help you escape from this thing.
But you can imagine what would have happened if he was in his storm cellar. The sheer force of the winds acted like an enormous shovel.
Can you even breathe?
Trench over one...
You know in like movies where you see them inside of like tornadoes and stuff like that, right? An example would obviously be the Twister movie. With like things like that, if you're inside of this tornado, can you breathe? How does it work? Let's say I'm strapped into the ground. I can't be pulled. Like I'm there. What does life for me look like in there?
Foot deep into several fields. This dirt was launched into the funnel, giving it a pitch black appearance. Traffic was at a standstill on I-35 as drivers looked on in horror at something they would never see again. An F5 tornado was less than a mile from the highway. Continuing to grow in size, the black cloud was now 1 mile away from the Double Creek Estates, a neighborhood of about 40 people on the northwest side of Jarrell. The tornado was moving slow enough that residents could watch it approach for several minutes and still have enough time to make a decision. In fact, if they were paying attention, they had almost an hour of lead time, which was enough for the Igo family to get to safety.
Yeah, get the fuck out of there. You got...
When the tornado warning was issued, the Jarrell Fire Department activated the town's emergency siren. Joan Igo, who was teaching at Jarrell High School, along with her 17-year-old daughter Audrey, immediately left for home upon hearing the tornado warning. Larry, the father of the family, closed up his Chevy parts shop 3 blocks south of the school, speeding home to seek shelter with the rest of his family in a central closet. But unbeknownst to them, by rushing back home, the family had now put themselves directly in the path of the monster. To make matters worse, Larry had about 85 parts cars located behind his home that could easily become deadly projectiles if the tornado hit their property. John and...
I guess those things just get like lifted and thrown, right? I'm confused. It's an F5. If you see it coming towards you, would you not run? Why would you hunker down? Is that the smart choice? If I looked out my window right now and saw it coming to me, I'm in the car and bolting it the other way. I'm like, fuck it, I'm going. I'm not like going, let's hunker down. Especially about an hour. Like there's plenty of time to run.
Michael Ruiz were also at the school, shooting baskets, when they decided to head home due to the impending bad weather. But they lived in a trailer, and knowing the dangers of being in a mobile home during a tornado, decided to leave for the Moring family home on their bikes over a mile away. Thankfully, the two teenagers made it inside with time to spare. As the black cloud drew closer, Billy LaFrance put his daughter, Kristen, and his wife, Debbie, into the bathtub of their central bathroom. With there being no room for himself, he huddled against the wall and waited for the worst to pass.
Is it smart going in a bathtub? Why?
And for reasons not easily explained, the tornado slows down to a crawl, simultaneously growing to 3/4 of a mile wide, now moving at just several miles per hour. The force of the winds is so strong that asphalt is lifted from County Road 305. Minutes later, the dead man walked.
So the tornado literally slowed down over their homes. And they don't know how to explain that. All these people who were watching it come to them, it like decided to turn around
from County Road 305. Minutes later, the dead man walks into Double Creek. The tornado took between 5 and 8 minutes to cross this mile-long stretch, which gives it the forward speed of a brisk walk. But with winds much stronger than 200 miles per hour, homes immediately exploded upon impact. People were lifted into the air, and walls, beds, chairs, televisions, bathtubs, every material that made up these homes was spun around the vortex at incomprehensible speeds for several minutes, breaking into smaller and smaller pieces. Pieces that became tiny missiles that would effectively sandblast every remaining home in this subdivision, until there was nothing left except for a bare concrete slab. In the entire history of recorded meteorology, there had never been an instance where structures were so cleanly and systematically dismantled by a tornado that the resulting debris was just missing. Not a...
There's nothing there. There's literally nothing there. No cars. No, it doesn't even look like destruction. If you showed someone this picture, they might think it was a construction site. They've put the foundations down to houses they're building. There's nothing there. There's no evidence of any kind of life. There's nothing. We've checked out a bunch of videos. We've never seen an aftermath
single
like this.
One of Larry Igo's 85 vehicles were immediately found. Several inches of topsoil was removed from the surrounding yards, leaving thick mud in its wake. The death toll within this mile stretch reached a staggering 27 residents. Those whose remains were found were seemingly difficult to identify for reasons that you can infer. Dental records and fingerprints became vital tools to identify the dead. The death toll included the entire Igo family, with the two twins, Paul and John, being at home the entire day. Tragically, the Moring family, including John and Michael Ruiz, did not make it out alive. While the Igo family and Ruiz brothers made the right decisions that followed conventional wisdom, had Larry, Audrey, and Joan stayed at work in downtown, and had the Ruiz boys stayed in their family trailer, all of them would have made it out alive. But then again, those who did survive also followed conventional wisdom. Billy LaFrance's wife, Debbie, and daughter, Kristen, made it through the horrifying several minutes in their bathtub, but unfortunately, Billy did not. He was pulled out of the home as it was being destroyed. The other survivors in Double Creek...
How do you survive in the tub? How does that help you? How? Can someone explain that to me? Did it not just get picked up off the ground? What makes this even worse is they all followed protocol. They all followed what, like, the conventional, the advice people would tell you to keep you alive, they all followed. And it was in this instance, this rare freak occurrence, the complete opposite of what they should have done. That story of the dad is... That's a lot. That's an incredible father. That's a real incredible father.
Were sheltered underground in 2 separate storm cellars that were properly constructed to withstand such extreme winds. Shortly after exiting Double Creek, the tornado began to shrink in a neighboring field and lifted about 1 mile later. The dead man had returned to the sky. As recovery efforts concluded in the coming months and the neighborhood grieved the tremendous loss, the tornado went into the record books with an F5 rating, estimated wind speeds of over 260 miles per hour. But
it's fucking insane that literally 5 minutes ago, it was this tiny spindle that was barely moving hay bales. It wasn't even cutting grass. It was just nothing. It looked like I could have walked into it.
Throughout the years, a murmur had turned into a discussion. What makes a tornado cause that much damage? Could the extremely slow forward speed mean that lesser winds, maybe less than 200 miles per hour, yield the same result? Unfortunately, there's no way to tell without some new evidence. Maybe a new close-up camera angle that shows the tornado moving through Double Creek. But when a situation like this undoubtedly happens again, there will be high-tech radars scanning the storm, maybe even of the
There's
mobile
nothing
variety,
like this ever happened,
as well as dozens of
since
storm
then.
spotters and chasers capturing different angles of the tornado at different times. As for Jarrell, the residents rebuilt their homes and tried their best to heal. New cookie-cutter subdivisions are popping up in the surrounding fields, featuring homes that are poorly built and would be a potential disaster if a violent tornado were to once again move through. The corporations that bought these plots of lands don't care about safety, but thankfully David Cockrum does. He started Jarrell Storm Shelters after experiencing the tornado firsthand, making it his mission to construct affordable and safe storm shelters for those who need them. As for Larry Igo's Classic Chevy Parts Auto Shop, his passion for old American cars lives on through the Central Texas Classic Chevy Club, which was founded by Larry in 1979 and still meets to this day. In the center of Double Creek Estates sits a memorial park with...
It's sad. Oh gosh, man. It's sad that it takes things like this to bring people together, but it's also beautiful and like very inspiring when something like this happens that devastates so many people, and the stories after are like people coming together, people uniting, people making sure that legacies live on, not just memories, but legacies.
Baseball fields, a tennis court, and a memorial on which the victims' names are inscribed in stone. 27 trees, one for each person, have been planted around the memorial and will continue to grow for years to come.
Huge shout out Weatherbox Studios, man. That was an utterly incredible video, and what a horrific thing. My gosh, man. I don't really know what to say. I actually don't. We've checked out a bunch of these videos now. This is our 4th tornado video. This isn't something I ever expected to fall down as a rabbit hole. Our kind of journey started with like American sports. We were doing like college football and NFL reactions and those kind of things. I still kind of wanted to do a baseball and a basketball one, as I don't know anything about those either, and especially with like everyone talking about the Knicks recently, I thought that could be kind of fun. But it's not something that seems to be massively recommended on my channel. But if you guys ever want that, let me know. I never thought tornadoes would become something people were so like passionate about on this channel. It's been interesting, and it's been emotional. I didn't think that. Ah, man. I don't even know what to say. I don't think I'd ever see something like that. That was one of the most terrifying things I've ever looked at. This tiny little nothing tornado, barely even standing on, like, on its own, barely picking up anything, barely moving anything, turned into utter devastation. Became this F5 monster that leveled a town completely. Like, people say leveled and they have an image in their mind. That is an image that no one can even fathom when they think of the word leveled. This brought new meaning to that. Is unbelievable. I don't know what to say. I don't. When you saw it, like, walking, it looked like a person. It looked like the freaking Grim Reaper come from up above to walk among us. It's just unbelievably scary to look at. Picking up dirt, turning into this, like, the shadow of death just creeping along the ground, slowing down over the homes. The thing was a living monster. I can't imagine how terrifying it must be for anyone to be in that situation. I feel awful for the families. Anyway, I hope you guys are enjoying these reactions. This was a very good video. I love these scientific explanations around the forming of these tornadoes, the storms that create them, and the unusual nature of this one particularly. It's very educational in understanding how these, like, terrifying monsters come to be. So I like these kind of recommendations. Thank you. I'm curious to see what you guys all want next, and as long as you guys keep watching, I'll keep making these videos. When something like this happens, it's cool to learn about these tornadoes and to see them, and it's important to remember the people who lost their lives. I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate the support this series has got, and that's it from me. Let me know where we're going next on this journey, and as always, my friends, you will see me in the next video.